Remember Thomas Hardy's wife, Emma, who died in 1912? Well, this is a poem about her and her death. This is the first poem that Thomas Hardy wrote after her death in 1912. It's the first of a collection of poems with the title Poems of 1912 to 1913. They are all elegies, which means a serious reflection, typically a lament for the dead. And this poem, The Goen, is an elegy. It is an elegy for Emma and her death. Thomas Hardy felt great remorse, guilt, and grief about Emma's death. They had been estranged before her death, which means that they were still married and living together, but not together as a couple. And he hadn't noticed that she'd got sick, so that's why he felt guilt. This poem is an expression of the grief process that dominated Thomas Hardy. He went through the typical grieving process of denial, anger, frustration, until he finally accepted her death. And it travels through these emotions, the emotions of shock, despair, and resignation, all of which conclude in a sense of confusion about Emma and her death. He has to force himself to come to terms with her death, something that he doesn't want to. He wants to imagine that she hasn't died, that she's still alive. And he exposes the mental frailty, that means weakness, that grief has left behind. So he's mentally very fragile after Emma's death. I will warn you, this is a really quite morbid and sad poem. Okay, let's read through the poem together and we will look at the new words that come up. Why did you give no hint that night, that quickly after the morrow's dawn, and calmly, as if indifferent quite, you would close your term here, up and be gone, where I could not follow, with wing of swallow, to gain one glimpse of you, ever anon? Why did you give no hint that night, that quickly after the morrow's dawn, morrow means tomorrow, and calmly, as if indifferent quite, you would close your term here? Close your term is a euphemism for to die, that you would die. Up and be gone, where I could not follow, with wing of swallow. A swallow is a kind of bird. To gain one glimpse, glimpse is a quick look, of you, ever, anon. Anon means soon or shortly. Never to bid goodbye, or lip me the softest call, or utter a wish for a word, while I saw morning harden upon the wall, unmoved, unknowing that your great going had placed that moment and altered all. Never to bid goodbye means to never say goodbye. She didn't say goodbye. Or lip me the softest call, or tell me, say, give. Or utter a wish for a word. Utter means to say. While I saw morning harden upon the wall, unmoved, unknowing, that your great going had placed that moment and altered all. Alter is to change. Everything is changed. Great going is also a euphemism for Emma's death. Why do you make me leave the house and think for a breath it is you I see at the end of the alley of bending boughs, where so often at dusk you used to be, till in darkening dankness the yawning blankness of the perspective sickens me. An alley is a narrow passageway, often between houses. Boughs is the main branch of a tree. Dusk is nightfall or sunset. Dankness is damp and chilly weather. Yawning, obviously, you know what a yawn is, due to tiredness or boredom. It also means wide open. Perspective, the outlook or viewpoint. You were she who abode by those red-veined rocks far west. You were the swan-necked one who rode along the beetling beanie crest, and reigning nigh me, would muse and eye me, while life unrolled us its very best. Abode means to live. Swan-necked is a long, slim, beautiful neck, just like a swan. Beetling means overhanging, and Beanie Crest is a cliff in Cornwall that overlooks the sea. Cornwall is an area of England in the south east of England by the sea. It's the closest point to France. Reining is to guide a horse with reins. Nigh, nearby. Muse is to think about something deeply. We often say that painters have muses. And eye me, look at me. Why, then, latterly did we not speak? Did we not think of those days long dead, and ere your vanishing strive to seek that time's renewal? We might have said, in this bright spring weather, we'll visit together those places that once we visited. Latterly means in the later stages. Ere, before, and strive means to try very hard to do something. Well, well, all's past amend, unchangeable. It must go. I seem but a dead man held on end, to sink down soon. Oh, you could not know that such swift fleeing, no soul foreseeing, not even I, would undo me so. Amend means to change. Swift is very quickly. Flee means to run away from. And foresee, to be aware of beforehand. Okay, let's look at the meaning of each stanza. The big idea in stanza 1 is Thomas Hardy is asking Emma why she died. Why did you die? It even starts with the question why. Sorry, the question word why. Why did you give no hint that you were going to die? Why did you die so suddenly? In this stanza, Hardy doesn't express any feelings of their previous unhappiness. It's a stanza it's one of shock. He's shocked and very sad that she died suddenly. Where I could not follow. He can't follow her because she's gone to heaven and he is left trapped on earth. He can't follow her. With wing of swallow. Here he's comparing Emma to a bird. So this is a metaphor. To gain one glimpse of you ever anon. He can't see her anymore. He'll never be able to see her anymore because he's trapped on earth and she's gone to heaven. Here he's asking why she didn't give him any hint that she was going to die. And it was a very quick death and calm, almost as if she was indifferent. In stanza 2, we could summarize it as Hardy's refusal to admit that Emma is gone. He is repeatedly asking Emma questions without any answers. I've put in question marks here to show that where the questions are. Never to bid goodbye or lip me the softest call, or even utter a wish for a word. These questions show an unproductive and cyclical mourning, which means when he's mourning, it's going round and round in circles, and he's not moving on from it. He's struggling to escape from his mourning. Here, unmoved, unknowing. He is unmoved, he is unknowing. He's expressing or showing what he's not feeling rather than what he actually is feeling. Does he know what he's feeling? Is he too numb to know? His existence without Emma is completely meaningless. Your great going altered everything. Her death has changed everything in his life. Sorry. Stanza 3. We could summarize this as denial, which is another process of the grieving process. Why do you make me leave the house? This stanza is continuing with the interrogative manner. That means when you ask questions. Why is she making him leave the house and think that he sees her? He is confused and irrational. It shows his frustrated attempts to come to terms with her death. He's left the house and he keeps thinking he sees her in the street. Even though she has gone where he could not follow. She's gone to heaven. This shows his irrationality. And it shows his denial in his grief. The yawning blankness. His whole life, his existence is meaningless without her. And this sickens him. Her death sickens him. Stanza 4 moves on, and there's a shift of tone in stanza 4. These are concrete memories of Emma that Hardy's looking back on. Moving on from frustration and shock to nostalgia, which means to look back with fond memories. He's thinking back to the things that Emma did, like walking and riding a horse. The use of the word red-veined suggests Emma's fierce force of life, in contrast to the morbid tone previously in the poem. And while life unrolled, although the subject of this line is life, the action of unrolling seems to suggest that the relationship is becoming undone, the relationship previously before she died. Stanza 5 is all about regret. Regret looking back on their relationship. Why didn't they change things when she was alive? Why didn't they speak? Why didn't they think of the happy times at the beginning of their relationship? However, any hope for thinking back fondly is in vain, because she is dead. They can't change anything. And he's still in a certain state of denial in this stanza. And stanza 6, reconciliation. Well. Hardy's finding it hard to express himself. This is quite a cliche. The act of sinking down is a process that leads to death. He is so sad that it's almost like he's dying too. He's given up on struggling and is allowing himself to be overcome with grief. So, in conclusion, this is a morbid poem. The sequence Hardy writes on the death of his wife, Emma, are all elegies, and this is the first in the sequence of elegies. Elegies frequently offer an extended poetic consideration of the meaning of death and the problem of death, but Hardy doesn't follow this path here. There are a number of critics who have talked about this this poem, and you can see what they have to say on the English website.